For those of us who need a properly capable, practical, and extremely powerful workhorse, there are no substitutes for the Ford Superduty. This incredibly potent heavy-duty pickup truck, which can offer up to 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, is a true monster of a vehicle and will be the go-to choice to kickstart the world once it stops spinning. However, as good as it is now, we're delighted to announce that Ford decided to make the Superduty even more impressive than before, affirming its status as the king of all pickup trucks. So if you're the kind of person who has the utmost need for towing, brace yourself as the all-new 2025 Ford Superduty shocks the entire car industry. Improved torque figures and towing capacity. Now, before we tackle this, we have to be straight. The maximum towing capacity of 40,000 pounds won't be changing. However, this change isn't even needed, as the Ram 3500 has a maximum towing capacity of 37,000 pounds, giving Ford more than enough of an edge in this segment. Instead, what will change are the torque figures for the lower-end models, especially the F250 and the F350. You see, all but the completely bare-bones F250 XL will, from now on, be getting the more powerful 7.3-liter V8 gasoline engine as standard. This means that the maximum towing capacity for the lower-end F250 and 350s will now rise to 18,000 pounds for the F250 and up to a whopping 21,000 pounds for the 350, which is more than 2,000 pounds more than what the 350 equipped with the same engine can do now. This is because Ford decided to fully rework the suspension and make it sturdier and much more rigid, while also tinkering with the gearbox to improve its performance too. As a result, the truck will now have a greater maximum towing capacity when equipped with a 7.3-liter V8, but that wasn't enough. You see, the 6.7-liter V8 diesel will now also be able to haul more because it too will be getting a significant upgrade when it comes down to the drivetrain, especially the gearbox, which will now be able to withstand greater tow loads and payloads. According to some sources, the torque figures will be as high as 25,000, which is exceptional for a pickup truck that doesn't have a dual wheel configuration at the rear axle. The F450 will not be getting any changes in this department, as this version of the Superduty is already the king of pickup trucks. And what Ford is currently doing is essentially bringing down the technology and solutions used on the 450 to its two younger brothers. However, there will be some other changes to the pickup truck, most notable of which is the fact that the exterior styling has been tweaked. What we very dearly love about the Ford Superduty is its exterior styling. The pickup truck certainly managed to combine an old-school pickup truck design and blend it with current trends. However, their pickup truck can certainly look a bit dated from some angles. This is especially true for the lower trim levels, such as the XL and XLT, both of which utilize steel wheels as well as halogen headlights and taillights. Thankfully though, the 2025 model year will introduce a much-needed styling refresh of the exterior. First of all, throughout the range, you'll be seeing a change in headlight and taillight shapes, which will now be slimmer to accommodate Ford's newest design language. The Superduty was already well positioned in the range, so it didn't stick out all too much. However, this upgrade will make it look even more flush with Ford's other pickup trucks. There will also be a change in trim pieces, as the Superduty will now have more chrome trim pieces for the upper echelons of its lineup, making it look classier and more luxurious. Oh, and the lower trim levels will also get a much-needed redesign. You see, from now on, all but the XL F250 will be getting LED daytime running lights, which will allow the truck to look much fresher than it does now. The XLT trims will also be getting full reflector LED lights, just like on the Lariat. Also, alloy wheels will be standard on both the F250 and F350 XLT. Speaking of the Lariat, it is expected to get a more chrome-rich grille and bumpers, allowing it to be easier to distinguish from its lesser brethren. There will also be an expanded choice of wheel designs for the Lariat. When it comes down to the rest, the only changes that will be incorporated will be the ones that are demanded with the facelift. So you can expect the changed shape of headlights and taillights, as well as a change in trim pieces across the exterior. From a functional standpoint, there will be little to no changes on the outside. However, the same will not be the case for the interior of the Superduty, because the interior gets a much-needed upgrade. One of the biggest issues and criticisms that Superduty faced concerned its interior. If we're being completely honest, a truck that costs as much as Superduties tend to cost should have a much better interior. Yeah, plastics and hard plastics are more durable and rugged than a more pristine interior. However, if we're paying up to $110,000 for a vehicle, we expect it to be pleasant on the inside. Just look at the Ram 2500 and 3500 series, which are Super Duty's direct competitors of Super Duty and even cost as much. Thankfully, the 2025 Ford Super Duty will finally resolve these issues, as the interior is said to be getting a much-needed upgrade, both in terms of functionality, aesthetics, and practicality. First, the infotainment system will be upgraded to a more modern and more responsive unit than what is currently being used. Furthermore, the interior materials are also expected to see a massive improvement over what they used to be. Lower-end trims are now expected to have a bit more soft-touch plastics, making the inside a bit more pleasant than it used to be. Higher-end trim levels are, however, what's going to go through a major rework in terms of quality, as you can now expect higher quality leather seats, as well as a leather trimmed dashboard, so that the Super Duty can better compete with its rivals, most notably Ram's offerings, pricing, and trim levels. When it comes down to the pricing, the price range of the Super Duty remains as wide as always, and depending on what you expect from the pickup truck, you'll be spending up to $105,000. Pretty steep, huh? Well, don't worry, as the base model F250 XL will start at less than half of that, at around $46,000. However, we wouldn't exactly go for this model, as it comes with basically no equipment, and still retains the least powerful 6.8-liter V8, which has only 44,500 foot-pounds of torque. Instead, we'd either skip to the F350 XL, which will have the same equipment levels. However, it'll utilize the larger 7.3-liter V8 and will also be much better for towing and hauling. And since it'll only be $3,000 more expensive, we'd argue that that's a damn good deal. The F450 XL will start from around $60,000, and while it is a hauling monster, capable of pulling over 35,000 pounds with the gooseneck fitted to it, however, we believe that a few bucks more added for a higher trim level with the high-output 6.7-liter diesel would be the thing to go for. When it comes down to the XLT trims, honestly, we'd skip them all. They're not a noticeable improvement over the base models, as you'll be getting cloth seats as standard still, and the interior upgrades will not be present. There will only be some extra chrome pieces and some minor creature comforts, as however, they're also noticeably more expensive, with an average price jump of around $6,000. If you're dropping that kind of money into a pickup truck, we just recommend you add a bit more and go for the Lariat trim, which is the best bang for your buck for all three versions of the Super Duty. It offers a solid amount of creature comforts, has a good palette of engines to choose from, and is generally a very pleasant place to be in, with leather-trimmed seats and improved cabin materials. The King Ranch is also a very interesting proposition, albeit its $76,000 price tag for the F250 is undoubtedly very steep. Sure, you'll be getting bespoke leather-trimmed seats, as well as improved dashboard materials, and the truck will ooze a certain southern charm. However, honestly, a $12,000 premium over the Lariat Crew Cab is not worth it in our opinion, and that is even more true since the premium trim level costs virtually the same. Speaking of the premium trim level, it will start from around $77,000, which makes it quite expensive, as you'll be getting everything you want from a Super Duty pickup truck: good interior build quality, solid ergonomics, great practicality, and a whole heap of amenities that you might or might not need if you've got the money. We'd suggest you consider the premium. Finally, there is the luxury trim level, which in our opinion, you should skip altogether. Sure, you'll be getting everything you've ever dreamed of and more, and the interior quality, which will be fully trimmed in high-quality leather, will be a nice touch. However, paying nearly $100,000 for an F250 is madness. Plain and simple. Just get an XL F350 for $50,000, and then buy a proper sedan or SUV for the $50,000 spare change.